Welcome to the Ferris Love Podcast. Here we explore spiritual insights and practical strategies to help you cultivate a family life rooted in beautiful, self-giving love. Join us as we invite experts to share uplifting perspectives and actionable advice for navigating the joys and challenges of modern family dynamics.
Welcome back to the Ferris Love Podcast. I'm your host, MaryGrace Warner, and today is a very special episode because this is my last episode on the Ferris Love Podcast, and I would like to introduce your new host, Amy Bjornstrom.
Hi, it's so great to be here, MaryGrace.
Amy, nice to meet you. No, I'm just kidding. We've known each other. We work together. So Amy is going to be taking on the helm of the Ferris Love Podcast. Today's conversation is just going to kind of be a little recap of the past few seasons that I've been able to have the privilege of getting to interview special guests, and then also kind of looking forward to the future with Amy taking on this awesome role. So Amy, welcome to the show.
Thanks. It's great to be here. Just a little bit about myself. I'm located in Northern California, so around wine country, which is fun. I run a photography business and have been working with the Ferris Love Family Project for like 3 years now, which is crazy, but particularly this podcast too. So it's fun to see its growth, but then also, work on it in a different way now.
Right. Yeah. And we've both been on this project for, the past 3 years. So it's been super fun. So I would interview and then Amy would go in and edit and make sure everything is all pretty and nice. Thanks, Amy, for that. What have been some of your, favorite episodes that you've kind of come across as you've edited and you've listened to the show?
Yeah. So there are 3 couple ones that stood out to me when I was doing research and trying to remember all the episodes. And I remember really liking Wallet Wins episode. I think I walked away being like, okay, I can take on the world of finances. So that was really cool to listen to. They just gave really good tangible tips and also a great perspective on finances in general. Yeah. And then Sam Goodwin's episode was really great as well.
Yeah.
And I think I enjoyed Tim Reckert's episode about the star the most, just from a artistic perspective. It was really cool to see things from his side of his point of view, but then also having to deal with Hollywood and them being like, Mary should get kidnapped, and just realizing that it's a completely different world sometimes.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I remember that. That was fun. And it was fun to hear his perspective, on how it was to create that film, going through and then having all the big all-star cast that lined it up and all that. That was really good. Yeah. So some of my favorite episodes were, a little background too about me, but I used to be a teacher. And so we had Dr. Sue Hansen on from the University of Dallas talking about family life and how it's rooted in freedom, which was an incredible episode because she's just so thorough in her understanding of the history of America that it was just so eye-opening to kind of. And she connects everything so well, how the family, the dynamic of the family is so important to our history and to our culture even now today. And so if you know anything about her class at University of Dallas, she's all about her timelines and she's very detail oriented, which is super awesome. And so listening to that podcast.
Did you ever take one of her classes?
Yes. Yeah. I took 2 or 3 of her classes.
Nice.
She's a big favorite at the UD, and so yeah, she was very, very, very good. And then it was so fun because it was getting our audience to kind of have a little taste of that in what she was saying. And then similarly to the education piece, William Perales talked about classical education, liberal education, same season, a little bit further. I think it was in August, and he does amazing things also at UD. I had a lot of good connections with UD, and he also kind of spoke about classical education and educating the child as a whole. And I thought that was really eye-opening. So that was good. So this kind of podcast is, just a little bit about Amy and I together, and then also just Amy kind of taking on this role. So Amy, do you have any questions that, we can discuss together as well?
Well, one of the questions that we often ask our audience or when we interview people is the very famous, how has Mary been a mother to you question? And so MaryGrace.
Very famous.
How has Mary been a mother to you?
Great question. And it's so funny because when we talked about earlier doing this question, I have asked this question probably every single episode that I've interviewed. And you don't always hear it because we splice it sometimes into a montage or anything, but I've always asked that question. And then I've never thought about that answer myself.
It's
until
kind
we
of
did.
it's a hard question
Yeah,
sometimes.
yeah.
I was
And like some people have very like profound, emotional, like things like that, experiences with Our Lady. And I would say how Mary has been a mother to me is it's very simple and very ordinary. I grew up, my parents were very connected. I mean, they had a really good faith life growing up, and they incorporated different Marian things throughout, growing up with the daily, weekly rosary as a family, Marian feast days. My name is MaryGrace, so I really took
yeah.
advantage of all the feast days. And it was like anytime there was a Marian feast, I'd be like, oh, it's my feast day, even though it was the Assumption or the Annunciation, excuse me, not the Assumption. So those were kind of like, obviously, my family, I was very blessed. And that kind of is also one of my favorite episodes, was interviewing my mom about how to build lifelong relationships with your children, because I think just how my parents modeled their relationship with us also helped with our relationship with God and with Mary. And so, I was very close to my mom. I'm still very close to my mom. And that is very much reflected in my relationship with Our Lady. And so I guess there was no like stark, like, oh my gosh, Mary is my mother. It's just, it was always there. And it was always something that was, especially, I lived in Spain for a year, and in Spain, there's like so many different titles of Mary,
I
and
bet.
everyone and their mother is named after the different title of Mary. And so there are these beautiful paintings, and I lived in Madrid, and they're called azulejos, which are these like, they're beautiful paintings on tile. And, getting to see those, and the depictions are super beautiful of the different titles of Our Lady. And so that was very like profound. You obviously understand art and beauty and photography and all those things. So getting to see those different depictions while I was away from my own mom, while I was away from my own home, and then also the women that I was with were super like supportive and very loving, and it was just a reflection of that love that Mary has for me as well. So I really kind of think during that year was when I, realized, okay, Mary's the best, and I can't let her go, and I can't, And so I think, yeah, it's been something that's always kind of been there ordinarily just throughout my day. Yeah, just seeing different versions of her in a sense, has been super helpful. What about you? What would you say we both talked about how difficult it is, but like, what would you say
Yeah.
would be your response to that? Yeah.
So, I mean, I have a very similar upbringing to you, in that like my family's always fostered somewhat of a devotion to her. Like
Mhm.
we would do family rosary, or if we didn't do rosary, it was a decade every day or something like that. When you're one of six, like,
Yeah.
you run out of time sometimes. And there was always like the May crowning, because May is Mary's month. And so I just always had that. But I think that I didn't fully appreciate, maybe, or understand or accept, I guess is another word, like Mary's motherhood until maybe around like 8th grade, because that's when I started giving talks about my adoption story. For those of you watching on YouTube, because if you're listening, you have no idea. But if you're watching on YouTube, I'm Chinese, but I was adopted from China, and I was adopted during China's one-child policy. And so, for listeners who may not know what that is, it was just
Yeah.
China government saying that couples could only have one child, but it was a very forced policy. Like, if you disobeyed, there would be serious ramifications. So like forced sterilization, forced IUDs. If you look into the numbers, it's astounding. And then in addition to that, like the culture in China at the time was very focused on everyone having their one child be a male, because traditionally there's the whole like, oh, the son will take care of the parents when they grow old, carry on the family name, all that jazz, because a female would obviously get married and become a part of her husband's family. And so the preference of like gender for people was heavily shifted towards males. And so all the girls would get aborted, all the girls would be abandoned on the street, and or just like left at doorsteps of orphanages. And so, yeah, I think that, sharing that story kind of gave me a deeper insight in like perspective, because I don't know my full story. Like my story, obviously it begins earlier, but like for me, what I know, it begins at the doorstep of an orphanage. And like, I think, people have different perspectives about adoption. Everyone has different stories, but I kind of have always had the perspective of I can't be mad at my birth mother. Like, no matter what her situation was, she made a choice in love, because if it wasn't love, like, I wouldn't be here. And so I think that, to circle back to Mary, like, at the wedding feast at Cana, I love the wedding feast at Cana. But we have this moment where, Mary's like, Jesus, we have no wine. And he's like, it's not my time. And she's like, but it is your time. And I was listening to a meditation about it, and the priest was like, it's kind of this moment where Mary makes a little bit of a sacrifice and gives her son to us, because Jesus was okay with it not being his time yet. And because, like, once he did his first public miracle, obviously that sets off a chain of events that will eventually lead to his passion. And so, Mary could have also kept that like remaining time and not started the chain of events. But in this love for us, for the world, for her son, she's like, no, I give my son to you. And so I kind of have this like visual of, my birth mother being like, I give my daughter away, and I see her give me to Mary, and Mary gives me to my mother. So I have 3 mothers in a sense.
That's beautiful. Wow.
So yeah,
that's amazing. Wow, thank you for sharing that. I'm sorry I didn't know that before.
No, it's fine. It's funny. It's one of those stories where I have friends who are like, they've been friends forever, and they're like, I don't know your story.
Well, and you're so like, I mean, also I think it's a testament to your own parents that you are so positive. I mean, so positive and so understanding of your birth mother. I didn't realize it was like that severe, You hear about
I actually,
it.
But didn't either. I did research on it kind of recently, and it was like crazy, like what they'll do, or what they did, because it's obviously it's not.
Well, it's problematic to try to do that. Yeah,
exactly. But they're dealing with their whole population crisis right now. But they, like, if you were working in the city, they found out like, oh, you're pregnant again or whatever, and you already have a child, they'd threaten your family, they would threaten to fire you, and like basically they'd say all this would go away if you just had an abortion.
Oh my gosh.
And then so it's just like, you have to imagine like the pressure, no matter what the situation was, it'd probably be insane.
Yeah.
And then if you were even living outside the city, they would have like communities of spies who would be in charge of spying on the women and reporting. And then like if somebody was pregnant, they would like threaten to take away food, they threatened to take away possessions. So like they really enforced it. Because, there's a part of me that was like,
why are you paying
here? So
exactly.
No.
So that's just, I mean, that's a very testament to your birth mother. And she really took a lot of risk.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I guess best case scenario, I was the first child, and she was just like, oh, it's a girl. Like, I don't know. I don't want the girl.
Yeah.
But if it were any other situation,
Still, I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Even if, if it was all the series of events went like perfectly, where like she didn't find out what I was, and I just came out and she was like, oh, okay, well, like, there's just so many things that could have happened that she wouldn't have been judged for. So like, apparently tons of babies were just left in the street. They didn't even bother to take them to the orphanage. So,
oh my gosh, it's horrible. Horrible. Well, I'm glad you're here.
Thanks, me too.
That is a great blessing. A great blessing. Oh my gosh. Well, to kind of hop back on the conversation. So looking ahead, we've had some really, really awesome guests on the show. What's one thing that you are like excited for as you take on the podcast?
I think the conversations. I think that if you couldn't already tell, I like to talk. So I think that being able to connect, hear people's stories, build conversation and relationships, I'm just so excited about it. I had a ton of fun at sea, building relationships as much as you can at sea.
Yeah.
But I think that that's something I'm really looking forward to with this podcast, is the conversations that are to come. And, nothing with this podcast is going to change, but I'm excited to, bring my own spin and see where the conversation takes us.
Yeah, it's the best. Honestly, you meet so many people and you hear so many stories, and all of them, I think that's, for those listening, whether you're parents of young children, whether you're parents of older kids, I think just listening to the stories of these guests has been like one of the best, most profound and just educating experiences, especially I started this podcast, or I started hosting the podcast when I was just dating, I guess, and then got married, and then now I have my baby, and like I think every one of those stages has been super has been helped so much by the guests on the show, just based on all of our topics and the themes. Yeah, it's going to be super, super awesome.
Yeah. Since you are heading out,
Yeah.
what was one of your favorite things about hosting this podcast?
Yeah, the podcast is awesome, but I think some of my favorite moments were the moments before and after. So, after you get off and you press, stop recording, and you just have like a moment to breathe with the guest and just like get to chat with them kind of one-on-one, just without any cameras on you,
Yeah.
I think those moments were my favorite because yeah, you just heard an amazing conversation and you just received a lot of really helpful advice. And then it's like, okay, well, I want to ask you just a little bit more, and just like, or just compliment the person, or just say thank you for all that they're doing. Because there's a lot of people that we have on the show that are doing amazing things for the faith, for, parenting, for just everything. I mean, I don't know. It's just very awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, just having those moments with them afterwards was super fun. And some of the guests, I've known before, and so it was nice to like reconnect and let them share like all the things that they do. Some guests I've never met before, but made, really good connections with. So I think one of the things to keep in mind is that like we're all on the same mission, like we're all on the same path. And whenever I get to explain like this devotion to Mary, Mother of Fairest Love to them, they're always super impressed and super just in awe, I guess, of the fact that, there are so many titles to Our Lady, but each one is so unique and can reach, so many different people in a way that's profound and special to that individual person. And so, we've had the woman on her show whose grandchild was healed through the intercession of Our Lady. We've had, priests that give their meditations on the show. And it's so good to hear, that it's another title of Mary, but also it's another title of Mary that's very specifically to help families grow in today's culture. Like, we're guests that we have on the show aren't just to have guests on the show. They're there to like help our parents to become, strong and have strength, fortitude, all the virtue, and to give that to their kids in this day and age, in this culture, which is super difficult to do.
Yeah.
And through that, like, yeah, developing this relationship with Mary, who wants that for us. I love that you brought up the wedding feast of Cana. And I love that. And now that statement that you said about it being like, she could have saved that moment to just have fun at the wedding and not worry about the future. But in the end, she did say, okay, like they need you now, And so, and we need our Lord and we need Our Lady now. So, yeah, roundabout way of saying that's kind of my favorite part.
No, it's beautiful. Yeah.
And like, I mean, in my own life right now too, like I, have my son, he's 8 months old, and every morning, every moment, it's like a good reminder, like Mary was here. Mary, Mother of Fairest Love was here. And, she is so, even that title, Fairest Love, just like, I think about how much I love Gabriel, my son, and like, can't even compare to how much she loves us and how much our Lord loves us. So praying to her and having her intercede for our family is super important as well. So especially as we kind of transition to, the future and all that. So yeah.
Exactly.
For the future, we're hoping to have more of our listeners kind of participate and hoping to share. So if you are listening to the show and you would love Amy to interview someone that you think would be really helpful for parenting and for family life, please go ahead and send an email to info@thefairestlovefamilyproject.org. And you can also, send a DM on the socials. We're there too. And yeah, Amy, do you have anything else to kind of finish us off? If you have anything else you want our followers to know?
I'm excited, very excited to be taking on this project. Thank you to MaryGrace for building the path. So it's a very easy transition. But yeah, like you said, if you guys want to hear a guest or we're going to start to try and incorporate your questions. And so you should give us a follow on socials so that you can see those question boxes when they show up and send in a question if you'd like to.
Thank you, Amy, so much for being on the show. And thank you to everyone who has listened thus far. It's been such a pleasure to have been your host for the past few seasons. Looking forward to seeing how the show develops with Amy as your host.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Ferris Love podcast. In 2026, we continue to share the devotion to Mary, Mother of Ferris Love. If you like what you heard on today's show, please visit our website at ferrislovefamilyproject.org, where you can find additional podcasts and other resources for families. Be sure to also check us out on social media at Ferris Love Project. Thank you for listening, and we'll catch you on an episode soon.